We are back in. We are back in with part two of visiting with Scott Roderick, who you were just talking about. You're growing up in the special needs situation, in the special needs classroom, and your situation with your parents advocating, your mother advocating, and your dyslexia, and then we're talking about Teach for America. You're like, how old are you now when you started with this Teach for America thing? You're getting into this prestigious.
I was, yep, I was just about 22 years old. And so I honestly was, going back to Teach for America thing. I kind of did it a little bit out of prestige and just wanted to prove it to myself that I could go do this. At the time, it was highly selective. I think it was even more selective in the early 90s, mid 90s. So I totally got accepted, totally floored. I was beyond floored, actually. I got accepted. I was like, whoa, all right, I guess I'm going to be a teacher. Um, and I ended up in New York City. So long story short, I ended up staying in teaching well, Teach for America is 2 years, but I ended up staying at the school placement for 4 years. Taught art, fifth grade, and I taught phys ed because that was the best. But my last year in the school, I was actually slated to go to the Peace Corps, which I did go. And I told my principal, I was like, hey, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go take a part. I basically told her I was going to go find like a temp job or something. And she said, well, when are you leaving for the Peace Corps? And I said, well, I don't know, sometime in the spring. So she said, how would you like a phys ed teaching job? And I said, that'd be great. So I ended up my last year there teaching phys ed. But that was a really good experience. And I'll tell you why it was a good experience and why it pointed me even further in the direction where I ended up now was as I was teaching, I was kind of shocked because I had all these kids that couldn't read, couldn't write, whatever, had all sorts of issues. And I would go like, so I'd hit like up some of the veterans teachers. So I've got this kid, like he's like 10 and he can't read. He's maybe reading at a first grade level. We're in fifth grade. What can I do? And they're like, nothing. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. So this experience taught me a lot. And I was like, it kind of taught me, I was like, do I really want to be in teaching? Because what I was really looking for was a more systematic, scientific approach to, addressing skill deficits and such. So I actually kind of, through my time there, I was like, it was my third or fourth year in, I was like, I think I'm going to go to law school. Why? I don't know. I'm glad I didn't do this, by the way. But I'm going to go to law school and I'm going to do disability law. So I want to do like kind of like disability, like advocacy law, special ed law. And and someone asked me like, well, why don't you stay in teaching? I go, teaching's not scientific. It's like I want more precise, like I wanted like techniques and scientifically proven techniques to address certain issues I was coming across. And at the time, I wasn't finding that in education. So what happened was to keep my my certification in New York, I had to take a class, kind of like a summer college course or graduate course.
What year? What year is this
And
now? What year is this? Ish.
this would be like 1999, probably 1998, 1999,
Okay. Turn of the century.
somewhere in there. Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I took this special ed survey course, which I was actually kind of excited about because I was like, oh, it's cool. Like I'm an expert in that. I kind of lived it and, figured like if I'm going to go disability law, I might as well take this class. So the teacher that was supposed to teach it got into a car accident and ended up fracturing their leg. And this guy walks in all disheveled, kind of late. He's the professor. And he's like, sorry, I kind of just got thrown in the middle of this class. And I was like, okay, great. This is going to be awesome. Well, this guy was awesome. It was Dr. Bahadorian. And he starts explaining what he does. He's like, yeah, like I'm over at Teachers College. I work in the behavior disorders program. And he talks about how they have this very scientific approach to teaching and addressing issues, or whatever, like increasing skills, and how data-based it was. And I'm like, oh my God, wait, I'm like, this is it. And my wife was with me because she was in Teach for America too. And she nudges me. She's like, this is what you want. This is exactly what you're talking about. This is the problem that you noticed when you're teaching. There was no like science, no data, no like, it just seemed like you kind of threw spaghetti at the wall and see what stuck. And it felt very like haphazard. So after the course, after a couple of classes, I go up and talk to him. I'm like, what class is this? Or what program is this? And where is it? So he's like, it's at Teachers College. And of course, like, mind you, like, I'm like, Columbia Teachers College? Oof. All right. I mean, my college grades were okay. I mean, they weren't terrible. My high school, thank God they wouldn't look at that. By the way, I graduated at the bottom of my class, just to let you know. Like, literally, like, at the bottom. Like, I was maybe like 4 or 5 kids below me. Like, I was like pretty much at the bottom of my class. So I was like, okay. And I go, who's the chair, like who's the head of that program? So he's like, oh, Dr. Greer. And I said, Dr. Greer, all right. So I, in my own way, I'm like, well, hell, I'm going to go take a walk over to Teachers College at some point. And so I poked around, found out where this department was, and just looked, and I found Dr. Greer's like student meeting schedule. So I was like, well, I'm a prospect student. I just like go, all right, I know he's going to be here on like Wednesday at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to come back at Wednesday at 4 o'clock. And I look around, there's no students in there. I knock on the door. So I start talking to him. And I said, like, I'm really interested in this program. And I was actually disclosed, I'm like pretty dyslexic. So like, I mean, my grades aren't the best. I mean, I talked about, he asked like, so what's that mean? So we talked about the type of accommodations I'm going to need. So he said, why don't you give me your transcripts and let's see. And we'll kind of like, we'll talk. So I sent him all my information. I did actually do an application at the time. And he just wanted to take a look. And he's like, dude, you're not Columbia material. That's what he said. And I was like, well, I disagree. So I go, I can make this work. So we went back and forth. I said, look, and I told him this whole thing. Like I developed a lot of compensatory skills since then. I'm more serious. I have like a focus I want to go into. I have a lot of life experience. Why didn't you talk to Dr. Bahadorian, the guy who I was taking the class with, and ask him what kind of student what kind of student am I, and maybe he can help you make your decision. I advocated for myself pretty hard on that. So I left. I was actually pretty dejected. I was like, oh crap. And I'll never forget this. I was like, my wife was down there waiting, and she's like, how'd it go? I was like, terrible. I forget it. That's not going to happen. Well, let's go have some drinks. So we go and talk. And then I go back to my class with Dr. Bahadorian, and he's like, you're in. I go, what? He's like, you're in. I go, what do you mean I'm in? He's like, put your application in. You're in. You're good. I go, okay. And so I went back, and I said to him, I was like, thank you. If it doesn't work first semester, I'll just, cut bait and go somewhere else. And it's my loss. I'll have to pay the student loans and he's like, all right, fair enough. But, you better knock it out of the park. That's what he said to me. And I was like, because I'm going on a limb for you. You really don't belong here. I was like, Jesus. All right. So, yeah. So I knocked it out of the park, by the way. I had like I don't remember what my GPA was, but it was really great. It was like my best GPA. It was all like, like an A- average or something like that.
Represent. Okay, now what's the secret? How did you? So you began to give us the secret sauce. I mean, you didn't care until you did. I know you're getting there. I'm loving this. You have me at the edge of my seat. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Are you? Okay, that's good. I think I'm just rambling.
No, you're doing it. You're doing it. You're taking us on the hero's journey. Oh, wait a minute. The thing is, you're a successful guy now. You're a successful guy. You have a pretty good, business, what you're doing and where you are. And okay, keep going.
Oh no. And honestly, when I was there, there was some animosity between Lucy Hawkins and my program, and
There was
because
what? Can
my
you repeat
program is
that?
very scientific.
Oh yeah, okay. So your
And
program, so you're the good Columbia
yeah,
Teachers
no.
College.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of different programs there. It's like Teachers College is like huge. It's like there's a lot of different programs within it, and there was like some animosity between that program and other programs. I'll just say that.
Okay.
You know, not everyone was a fan. I'll just so anyways, so the secret sauce. All right, there's a couple of secret sauces. One thing is the neurodivergent brain often matures a lot later. So that's I think a little bit of what was going on. I've always been the king of coming into things and really sucking at it, like really bad. Like when I first started doing something, it's like terrible. Like trying to think of something offhand, but you know, the first 10 years of my schooling was pretty bad. Like I was pretty sucked at it, but then I excelled. Um, you know, I'm trying to think. I had a really good example of that, but just recently I had something come up, and they're like, "Dude, I don't know." And then all of a sudden, I got, oh, for example, when I do my snowboard certification, like I was like kind of like not my snowboarding ability, but my ability to break down tasks and skills like in a snowboard because I never thought about that. Wasn't the best, but in my program, I'm the most requested snowboard instructor. Not tooting my own horn there. I'm just saying it's like, I get people out snowboarding really quick and get them up and, get them, shredding fast. So that's kind of been my like path through life. I kind of start off slow.
But you're taking nonverbal people. I mean, you're taking all kinds of people, neurodivergent people, but everybody. But so you get everybody up and going. But that goes back to your special gift that they knew you
Yes.
at. Because so somehow you're reading people, you're watching people, you're seeing people, and you're knowing how to. You're like an educational ninja, but you're a special forces educational ninja.
Yes. I guess you could say that. Yes.
I just did. I just said it.
Thank you. That's
All
good.
right.
I like that.
All right.
All right. I'm going to make a t-shirt that says that. So I think the special sauce is this. One is knowing that the neurodivergent brain tends to mature and develop slower. So I definitely think there's a piece to that. Two is finding out what you're really good at and going with it and like running with it. Like, so that is the thing right there. Like I'm still to this day, I go deep, I find like something that interests me. I kind of hyper fixate on it. I go super deep into it to ad nauseum to the point where my family's like, dude, stop talking about that. I'm like, no, really, you won't believe. Like I info dump a lot. I try not to anymore. I try not to do that. Knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then figuring out what is going to like work around those weaknesses, and then figuring out how to exploit the strengths. So, and honestly, running a company is a lot like that. And I always tell people that, like, they're like, how do you do it? I go, you know what? I've done most of the roles within my company, and I've found out what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I like and what I don't like. So the things I'm good at and I like, I keep doing. The stuff that I'm not good at or I don't like, I find people that love and like those things and like let them do it. So that's kind of like the secret sauce to owning a company, but it's also the secret sauce to, I think, being successful and with it, like as a neurodivergent. So definitely that is key. And also like just being honest with yourself. Like, look, I am like still to this day, I mean, I can read. I am not a fast reader. And in fact, my like eye reading, I don't eye read very much. I'm pretty much an ear reader strictly. Sometimes I'll combine the two, but I used to try to be like, well, I'm going to sit down and read this book. And I would like literally go page and then I'd read a page and be like, wait, what did I just read? And I'd go back and read it again. And I go back and read it again. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't focus. Like it was still to this day. But I used to try to do it because that was the neurotypical thing to do. And that's what everyone did. But when I went to graduate school, the technology was a lot better. So they were able to scan like journals and all this stuff, put it onto like audio files. And I'd have this like MP3 player, it would be like, pre iPhones. And I'd have everything there. Like I literally go to disability services and be like, I need this journal, this article, these chapters. And I'd come back next day, and I don't know, it was crazy. It was like magic. It would all be scanned, and they'd hand it to me, and I'd be like, okay, wow, that's amazing. So that right there was like, knowing your strengths and how you access information is really, really important, and not trying to force yourself to access a way that doesn't work. Like printed text, yes, I can read. I actually write a lot, but I always feel like a foreigner there, if that makes any sort of sense. It doesn't feel like my native land ever. Like, still to this day. I don't know if that makes any kind of sense or not, but
It makes a lot of sense. It's beautiful. It's a good, great way of putting it. So you're at the university. So you're at the university. Okay, no, keep going. We're still in secret sauce. We're secrets of life. I'm loving it. I'm getting you're spilling your guts here.
oh my guts. I'm actually not even going that. I'm leaving some of the good stuff out. But no. So anyway, so I go through this program, and I literally went in hard on, like, I'm going audio, I'm going, because and like I said, technology was better then. It was like back when I was in college, I had this huge gigantic, like, I'm not kidding, like this giant clunky 8-track tape player. I don't know if you had that, Harvey, where it was from the Recording the Blind.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know about it.
Before it became Learning Ally, and this like giant clunky had a carry. You looked special when you carried that around. You looked like you had a disability. Like when you're like bringing this thing around, you had your big clunky headphones, and you're like listening to it. It was horrible. Like, talk about stigmatizing. So I never would do it, like as an undergrad. But the technology changed so much from my undergrad year to my graduate year, because there was about 5 years in between. And it went from these clunky tapes to MP3 files, with the audio text on there. And that was like life-changing. And then that way I could really access the information really well. I don't forget stuff. Usually if I hear it, I don't ever really forget it. And then, the speech to text was like coming out as a thing. And that was life-changing too. Like, you could talk and it could type for you. That's insane. And then the screen readers on the computers, like where I could read back what I just wrote. Holy cow. Not only could I like talk into it, but then I could read it back to myself and proofread it, and then give it to somebody else, so they're not going to spend 8 hours like going, what are you saying here? Because that's usually how my proofreading went. I give it to somebody, and they're like, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Like, what I do. And I'd have to like decipher for them, and to edit a paper would literally be this like day-long process, and like literally it became so much more efficient. So secret sauce: finding what you like, finding what you're good at, finding what you don't have to be good at it, but if you like it and just kind of like become really, like, you can become good at it, and then finding out the ways that the best ways for you to access information, and the best ways for your information to get out to the world. That's it right there.
Secret sauce. Now, you're ready to take on the world. How do you get from? So you went to the Peace Corps. Or was this before or after the Peace Corps?
Peace Corps was before graduate school.
Okay, so now graduate school. Now you get out. So you and your wife are already educators, but she wasn't your wife yet. Was
Yep.
she your wife?
No, she was my wife. No, we were married. We were married in Peace Corps in graduate school.
Okay,
and so in fact, tomorrow is our 26th wedding anniversary.
Oh wow!
So 26. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
This is a snapshot of your life. I love this. Okay, so tell me more about school, and tell me how you got your business going. Because how many people are at your business again?
So over 40. So I think last count, I think I had 45 people. I have 10 board certified behavior analysts, and then about 30 or 35 therapists.
In a couple different locations.
Yep, 3 locations.
3 locations. Okay, so I mean, not for nothing, but you're the real deal. So you've had schools tell you that you're not qualified to be Columbia. You had educators back in middle school. You must have been a heck of a fun guy to be an administrator around, or a teacher around, in this. So okay, so I love this. This is the kind of stuff that our parents love to hear. This is the kind of stuff that our educators love to hear. This is dyslexic boy make good story. This is okay. So then what happens?
Yeah, but I don't want it to be inspiration porn either. So like, I don't want to be like, oh, everyone should go to graduate school in Columbia. No, you should go where you want to go. Like my older son, as an example, he didn't go to college. He went to tech, and then he became a machinist, and he's super happy. Like forcing him to go to college would have been, he probably wouldn't have been particularly happy. I mean, I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm just going to go guess. He's happy with his path. That's the other secret sauce. You don't have to go the way everyone else goes, So that's all I was going to say. I just want to throw those 2 cents in there, Harvey.
Yeah, but I know him, and he is, he's fixed things around our farm. We had a beat up old tractor that he used to, keep it going. And the thing about our society is we need all of these things. They have these
Yeah.
stigmas if you do this or do that. But the plumbing and heating guys are pretty important in our life when you don't have plumbing or heating. That's
Oh,
just,
100%.
so it takes a village, as they say. Okay, so you graduate from graduate school and you start hanging around New York City. How'd you end up in Connecticut? What happened? How you came back to Connecticut? What happened?
So, okay, so I'm from Connecticut. I grew up in Hamden. And then what happened after I finished up graduate school, my parents were still alive at the time. And they lived in Hamden. And, my wife and I were talking, you're like, this is after 9/11. And we're like, I don't know if I want to stay in the city. So we basically decided, let's look at Connecticut. We always went and visited my parents and enjoyed, our time in visiting them. So we thought, let's look for jobs in the Connecticut area. So I went to the head of my program, who did, by the way, totally believe in me at the end. I mean, just fast forward. And he's like, oh, yeah. So one of my graduates, Michael Powers, he's got a practice in Connecticut. I'm sure he's looking for a behavior analyst. So I'll give you his contact information. So anyways, he gives me the contact information. I go and interview. I get the job. I end up working at the Center for Children with Special Needs for about 4 years. And, I was like, I'm going to be honest. I had at the time, even walking into it, I had bigger aspirations. I was like, especially when I started working and doing school consults, I was like, my second year in, I was like, I want to run a company. I want to be, I want to do this, but I want to run it myself. And so, I kind of looked around, watched how things functioned and how I would I'm like, oh, I'd totally do that. Or like, maybe that wouldn't work for me. And, if I did this, I'd maybe do this a little differently. So my 4th year out of graduate school, or actually more my 5th year, I should say, out of graduate school, an opportunity arose where this district called me up. I had a relationship with them. And they said, well, we're looking for somebody. They don't want them to be an employee, but we want to hire a behavior analyst as a contractor. And I said, all right, it's right up the road. It was in Hebron, Connecticut, and I lived in Glastonbury at the time. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I went in and right away. I was like, wait a minute, I can kind of name my price on this one. That's kind of cool. So I was able to get what I thought I needed at the time to raise my family on. I had 2 kids at the time. And the director there was awesome. She totally was like, Scott, you're again, saying that you have such a gift for this. This is crazy. And I'm like, all right, this is, weird again, but everyone says that. But she'd be like, hey, I got this school looking for somebody to do this. They have like a really difficult case. Will you go over and look at it? And I'm like, well, I'm with you. She's like, well, just go do it. Just set up a contract with them. So she actually encouraged me to go out and set up other contracts with schools. So that's actually how I grew my practice. I just kind of went out, and it was scary because I was the sole provider in the family, and I was contracting with schools, and that's kind of scary. And but I built up, kind of like a base of schools that I would kind of keep going back to, or I'd set up long-term contracts with. One district, I'd go there for 9 hours a week. And then I would, every week for the school year, then I'd have another district where I'd do like 2 full days and et cetera. And then it got to a point where some of the districts I was working with said, hey, we need 4 behavior analysts from you. And I was like, 4 behavior analysts from me? And being the person I am, I'm like, well, I'm just going to jump out of this plane. I might have a parachute, I might not, but I'm going to say yes, because this is an opportunity to take, and I'll build the plane on the way down, or the parachute, and let's see what happens. And so I had a district say to me, like, I need 4 people. I'm like, wow, it's just me. And they're like, well, if you can find 4 people, let us know and we'll hire them, or we'll hire you, we'll do a contract with you. And I said, okay. So I literally scoured the local network of people I know, and I found 3 people, took them on as contractors. So it was kind of like subcontracting out. And then I had another district come to me and be like, hey, we need 2 people. Do you have that? So anyways, it just kept building like that. So right now, the company, just to give you an idea, so we have 3 locations, but we're in about 10 different school districts. And some of the districts we're in every day of the week. So one of the districts I have 10 people in every day. So they're there full days. I've got 10 of them in one district.
Can parents contact you?
Some districts.
Can parents contact you?
Oh, yeah.
Sue? So,
yeah.
So,
Yep.
You don't have walk-ins. I mean, so how do people get a hold of you and contact you?
School stuff is all word of mouth. I'm not really sure how it works, and which is crazy. These people ask me, I'm like, I think they kind of like exchange information, names. That's how there's, or you just build up a relationship with them, or directors. You build a director will be at one district and they'll move to another, and the next thing I know, I'm in both districts because the old new director kept us, and then the old director said, hey, can you come work with us down here? So that's how districts find me. Parents, same thing. I get a lot of parents. I kind of keep a low profile. Honestly, I don't do a lot of advertisement or social media kind of stuff for the company, just because we have, at this point, plenty of work, more than we can take on. But parents reach out to me a lot. I have parents I work with in schools, and they reach out to me, hey, can you do some home-based insurance stuff? I have, we have through the adaptive sports that I've had parents reach out to me as a result.
What does that mean? The home insurance thing. What does that mean?
So, yeah. So we basically have 3 funding sources through the company. So school districts is one funding source. Insurance based. So under autism, you can get ABA services, paid for through insurance, state law, through Connecticut and Massachusetts. And then we have some like kind of state funding, but not very much. So primarily our main funding sources are schools, and then insurance funded services. So when we're in network with, Anthem, Cigna, Aetna, all these different insurance providers. So if you were a parent with an autistic child looking for home-based services, our company would come up as an option if you live in our area. And then that's often how I get contacted by parents. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Tell me about this adaptive sports thing. Who comes to this? I know you're a rock star.
That is the fun. That's fun stuff. So that is literally pretty much kids from like 5. Well, kids from 5 all the way up to adults. We've had a 93-year-old participate. It basically could be a physical disability, so someone in a wheelchair that wants to go out skiing. We have like special sit skis. It could be anything, like literally any kind of disability. You could have somebody with like PTSD, traumatic brain injury. We have a lot of kids on the spectrum going out skiing and snowboarding, and that's our primary, I would say, and that program, that's our primary population that we have is kids in the spectrum. We have kids with dyslexia that come out that have difficulty with verbal directions and need specialized instruction. We have kids with ADHD coming out that need like more individualized like ski lessons. So all our lessons are usually 2 to 1. So you have 2 instructors, one 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 participant. All of our instructors are highly trained, or at least one of them is highly trained. The other one is in training. If the other person's not as highly trained, we have tons of specialized equipment, specialized teaching methods, and the whole, the whole thing is to build independence and inclusion. And a lot of these kind of like action sports, like skiing, snowboarding, biking, are great for people with disabilities. Totally levels the field. You're kind of just performing against yourself. You're not in the team, although we do have a race team too. And then you can, it's a great inclusionary opportunity too, because I have this one boy I take out. He's non-speaking. He has autism, level 3 autism. His communication is done through an iPad. He's 10, and it's so cool. He'll come with me on Wednesdays during the winter, and his school is there too, skiing, and all the kids know him. They're like, dude, he skis, and he's like out independently skiing, and they're like, yeah, like, and they just think it's the coolest thing. So, and not to mention, the kid absolutely loves it. He has the biggest smile on his face when he's out skiing. Actually, I have him on my Instagram page. There's one that, it's set to a Boston song. You can watch him ski without his tethers on for the first time. So that's what we do. And then also I go out to Colorado. They have a ski spec, which is the Hartford, which is the insurance group. We do a big week-long, the largest adaptive ski event I think in the world. Maybe don't quote me on that, or in the country. I think it might be in the world. But about 800 participants go out for 1 week at Breckenridge in December. And like last year, I had a vet who had ADHD and TBI, and he was awesome, man. He was great. I just spent the whole week snowboarding with him and kind of working through stuff, like getting his just it turned into therapy. It's therapy for both of us. So we kind of talked things out. We became actually really close. Still, in fact, he was up in Vermont back in February and called me up. He's like, dude, you want to go ride? And I'm like, hell yeah, we'll go ride. So I took a day off from work and went up and met him up at Mount Snow, and we went out and shredded in the woods. But yeah, that's my dad. That's the fun stuff. That's really where the rubber hits the road, I think. And I can take all that scientific knowledge about teaching and breaking down tasks and doing task analysis and how to break things down into small teachable increments to get kids that probably people would never have thought, like, that kid's going to go skiing. And then you're like, oh yeah, that kid's skiing, like he's shredding, or whatever. So that's where I take my school stuff, my work stuff, and I apply it to something I absolutely love. I love being outside. I'm very active. I mean, I'm on my bike. You see my Instagram. I'm always out doing crazy stuff. I have to move all the time. This is actually the most I've sat for, I don't know, maybe 3 days, in one sitting. It's amazing.
Well, I'm loving it. I mean, you're a super active guy. I love it. I love the fact that we've even been able to meet with you and talk with you. We've talked about this for a long time. And we have to get together again and do something fun. But I don't know if you could teach me to ski, because I'm really and I'm not throwing down a challenge. I'm not throwing down the gauntlet, but my eye-hand coordination, I'm like.
Oh, I got you, buddy.
Oh, my wife would.
I'll get you out there.
Okay. All right. We'll be talking about it. Okay. I love you very much. Thank you for your time.
Love you, Harvey.
I love you very much. So much love and respect, and we'll see you someplace in the future.